Meet Kelli Brett, culinary storyteller, media maven, and advocate for women in food and drink. Kelli is a dynamic force in New Zealand's culinary scene, blending her passion for food with a flair for storytelling. As the editor and owner of Cuisine Magazine, she has transformed the publication into a vibrant platform that celebrates the richness of New Zealand's food and wine culture. With a background as an award-winning journalist and broadcaster, Kelli's voice resonates beyond the pages of her magazine. She has served as a guest judge on MasterChef New Zealand and sits on the panels of some of the world's most prestigious restaurant rating lists. Beyond her editorial pursuits, Kelli is the founder and director of Women in Food and Drink New Zealand, a rapidly growing network that empowers women across the diverse layers of the food and drink industry. Today, Kelli joins us to share her journey, insights, and the transformative power of storytelling in the culinary world. Kelli Brett, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here at The Essence Within You. I've been dying for this conversation for a long, long time, and I can't thank you enough for giving me some space in what I know is a very, very hectic schedule.
It is a bit at the moment, but I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled to be here, Sue, and you've actually thrown me. I woke up in a sweat this morning going, what are you doing? You're going on to this podcast with this lovely woman who you want to impress, and in the title is the word essence, and you haven't defined your essence.
Oh.
And so I'm like, oh my God, this is like, because I've been thinking a lot about that word.
Yes.
And I haven't been able to, which is like probably, do you want to just stop now?
Yeah, let's pack up, let's go. No, a lot of people don't, and that's why I called this show The Essence Within You, because I think it brings up a lot for a lot of people in terms of, is that my why? Is that my purpose? Is that who I really feel on the inside that comes out in an indirect way in what I do? So everybody interprets it really differently. But what you'll see is I will ask you some questions at the end that will help you really identify. And I think everybody knows what their essence is within them. Sometimes it's just not thought about.
Well, this will be like free therapy?
Yeah, probably.
Bonus.
Bonus. So to give some context, we first met each other in 2016.
Trying to pinpoint the year, I couldn't think, yeah.
Which so was when you took over Cuisine Magazine. Yeah. So we met at a bar, funnily enough, and we were at an event of a company that you were being employed by, stuff.co.nz.
Well, Fairfax then.
Fairfax, that's right. And we got talking, and you said, I've just arrived in the country, I know nobody, and I've come for this amazing new role. And I was so impressed because I thought, you've packed up your whole life in Australia, you've come to a country, I don't think you'd even visited it before at all, uplifted the family, and you were starting in kind of a new area. And I thought, Absolutely. This woman has drive, she has passion, and she certainly has courage and determination. And I just thought you were such a breath of fresh air. And you've always stayed in my mind since, and we've kept in contact on and off. And, of course, I see your beautiful magazine, Cuisine, all the time and buy it on a regular basis. And so bringing you into the studio now to have a one-on-one chat is very special.
If only I knew then what I know now, Sue. If only I knew then back in 2016. Oh, my goodness.
So tell me, what were you doing in Australia that then led you to come here to take up the role of editor of Cuisine Magazine?
Well, I've had a lot of roles that have driven me down this path, actually, and I feel very privileged to be where I am because I do feel that at this stage in my life I've come to a place where all of those random things that I've done have all come together to be able to, and I don't think that everyone is lucky enough to be able to get to that, but when you do get to that, it's such a privilege to be able to actually go, all of these things that I've done are all coming together now, and now they make perfect sense when, years ago they didn't. My last gig in Australia was working for the Australian Broadcast Commission. I was the content director based in Melbourne for ABC Radio, ABC Regional Radio, and so I had, radio stations all the way around Australia that I was looking after, and so that was my gig. And then there was a lot of restructuring going on at the time. There always is. I mean, even now, and as we've seen in media and everything, there's constant restructuring, constant change.
Yep.
You can't turn your back for 5 minutes because you can't keep up. So so I was working with the ABC and they were restructuring, and so they decided that as the content director, they wanted me to relocate to Canberra to be in the thick of politics.
Oh, fun.
And that meant taking my family from Melbourne, where they were very happy, to Canberra. And, Canberra's a lovely place, but, I was going to be in the thick of politics. So I went across and I did 6 weeks there just to have a little, trial run and see what it was like living on my own. And left the family behind to sort of see whether or not I wanted to make that decision. And the team were fantastic. And I was sitting in my hotel room and I was like, the thick of politics. You don't even like politics. You work for the ABC and you don't like cricket. And the only thing you really want to do is I had my little podcast and I was on digital radio then nationally with my show The Main Ingredient, and that was my passion.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
And so I had my little food program running in the background, which won awards. It won the world's Food and Wine Media Award.
How amazing.
And it was Best Radio Food and Wine and all of that sort of thing. So that was my passion, and that's what kept me going through all of the,
the hard bits.
Toxic gas spills and fires and floods and politicians being kicked out on a Friday night just as you're about to go home, so you'd have to work all weekend to be up to date on what was going on and all of that stuff. It was the foods program that kept me going. So I was sitting in Canberra going, I don't know about this, and I went on Seek and the position for the editor of Cuisine Magazine popped up, and I was like, that's actually what I want to do. That would be ridiculous because I'd have to go to New Zealand and I'd never get it because I don't know anything about print. I mean, radio. But that's what I'd like to do. And then I thought, you know what, bugger it. So I stayed in my room. Instead of discovering Canberra that first weekend, I stayed in my room and I did my application and then forgot about it.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, they rang me when I was back in Melbourne and said, but I must admit, I'd already gone back to Melbourne and said, no, I don't want to go to Canberra, and I'd quit.
Ah, okay.
I didn't know I had the job.
Yeah.
I was like, so what's
brave.
next? A hot dog stand? Do we buy a food truck? What am I going to do? And then the next thing they rang and said, we're really interested in interviewing you for the job. So, yeah.
And, what I love about that is a passion that you were kind of doing as a hobby on the side turns into the highlight, and suddenly it becomes your career.
It does. And it's funny because I do believe that I drove that, though. Even though, I don't believe that you very often get things handed to you. I think you have to drive your own path, and you're very privileged when you get into a situation where things work out, and you are, totally passionate and inspired to get up every morning and jump into it. But it doesn't just happen. I see people all the time that sit there and they're waiting to be tapped on the shoulder, and they're waiting to be, it's like one day someone's going to discover me, and that does happen for some very, very lucky people, but for most of us, you've actually got to decide what you want and go for it and drive your career in that way.
Absolutely, and I 100% agree with you. And I always talk about the people who are the action takers, and then I talk about the shoulda, coulda, woulda people who sit there dreaming and wondering why they're so unhappy because they haven't got what they've got, because they never take action.
No.
And I also think there's a huge element to that, where your focus goes, the energy grows. And so if you're really focused on a passion like your work and you were involved in it,
better and better.
It's an emotional energy that, and, you might call it a bit woo-woo, but then synchronicities happen and things suddenly become aligned. And as you said, there were lots of different pieces in your jigsaw puzzle. And suddenly they started coming together. And timing is everything, isn't it?
It is absolutely everything. And then you just start to, the people, you attract the people that you need. And it's like, it is. But then there's also the other side of that is that I've always been that person that, you know, for some people it's the fork in the road and which way do you go? And I never go into that with any hesitation because for me, I really, really honestly it doesn't matter which way I go, there are going to be amazing people on either side of it. And I'm an opportunity spotter, so I'll make it work. And I'm also, I don't come from a wealthy family. I don't have a millionaire husband. Like, I'm the
breadwinner.
I'm the main earner. And so I also have to get up every day and make it work. So there is not an option to just go, oh, woe is me, and, sit around and wait for it to happen. I have to keep going.
You keep driving. Yeah. And that drive is, I know what it's like being in, your own businesses and in your own, driving your own careers. I've been self-employed in my own businesses since my middle 20s, so I love it, but it is, some days can be harder than others, and you've got to keep looking for that passion, that purpose,
that's
that
what keeps
essence,
you going,
because
though, isn't it?
That's what keeps you going. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me, you arrived in New Zealand, and what I love about the food and drink industry is it offers so many opportunities to learn and things to talk about. And I know you're a fabulous storyteller. The food, the different foods, the wines, the people behind them, everybody eats, experiences around them, what amazing things people are doing who never get the spotlight. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. But just before we come on to that, what was your vision when you first arrived and you saw and you got familiar with Cuisine Magazine? What was your vision?
Well, I tried to be a little bit clever because when I came in, the first question, obviously, in this environment is what is New Zealand? What is the New Zealand food story?
Yeah.
And I sort of stepped into the team as the new editor, and I know that they're all sitting there going, "Oh my God, this big brash Aussie, like
what have
we got? What have we got? She knows nothing about, But when I started to sort of sit around and say, "So what is the New Zealand? Come on, what
Tell
is
me.
the New Zealand food story? Tell me." Kind of thing. They couldn't really nail it.
Ah, interesting.
And so then I said, all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a New Zealand themed issue. I inherited the first issue because the previous editor had, got that one pretty much all done and dusted. So I just sort of turned up for the cover shoot and put it to bed. But the next one was my first
baby
absolutely petrifying, like, oh my God. And poor Fairfax was sitting there thinking, what have we done here? Oh my God. Because don't forget, I had no print background either. So I had no understanding of the deadlines.
Yep.
I had no understanding. So,
big, deep learning.
It was such a massive learning curve. But the New Zealand themed story was, if I do say so myself, a brilliant idea because it gave me the opportunity to jump in and learn while we went around the country trying to define what was the essence.
Yes.
God, I love that word now.
See? It's going to be
it is. It's my new word. I think I'm going to put it on the cover.
Excellent.
But what is the essence of New Zealand? So it gave me the opportunity also to get out on the road and go around and start talking to people and learning a lot more about the culture. And along the way I learned so much, and what I learned most was what I didn't, I thought I knew so much that I didn't know. It was a really interesting time.
And I think that was a brilliant move, I have to say, because what a way to actually start learning and picking it up, because, every country has its own food and drink culture. And I think even when you look at, some are obvious because it's Italian or French or whatever, but I think for New Zealand and Australia, it can be more subtle that people go, I don't know, what is it?
That is just it. And it's because we don't have the traditions And that can be hard, but it can also be such a plus because you're not bound by tradition, you know. And so we've got so many immigrants and so many other food cultures feeding into what we have.
Yes, true.
You know, I always remember I went to Venice for a trip once, and I was trying to discover the best. You know, I decided, like, everyone else was off doing the museums, and I was like, if I have to look at one more museum, I'm going to scream. And I took myself off away from the tour and went and had a look. I was trying to find the best squid ink pasta, which was a Venetian, you know, very traditional Venetian dish. And so I went, and I think I had about 5 lunches that day. Went to 5 different places, all little places that, you know, no one knew about and all that sort of thing, and had the same dish. And, you know, talked to the chefs as much as I could where they could speak English. And I'll never forget, this one chef sort of sat and I was like, where are you from? Oh, you're from Australia. Oh, you're from Australia. Oh, you're so lucky. Oh, you have MasterChef. You have the MasterChef. Oh, I love that. And, you know, honestly, you know, here you can do so much. You know, you can invent things. You can do all these things. But here, you know, I can't change a thing on the bloody menu. The menu's got to stay the same all the time, because if I dare to stray from it. And I was like, oh, my God, how lucky are we? You know, really, true, you don't think about that, you know, and they're so bound by that, having to have those traditional things, you know.
Whereas we have more creativity.
Potential in that,
Yeah, I love that. So tell me, what is your, with food and drink, I suppose, because that's the industry that you're in, what resonates so deeply with you about it?
I think it's the people always. The people, the people on all of it, the people that are in it, the people that are making and growing and cooking, and you know, but it's, I think what drives me toward all of that, and that comes from the very early days, was that the realisation that food and drink is just like, it's everyone's got to eat. It's you know, there's not a person on the planet that doesn't have to have food and drink, but there is just so many layers to it, you know. And people look at Cuisine and think, oh, it's a recipe magazine. This is not a recipe magazine. It's so much more, you know, and could be so much more. I've got such plans for it. But, yeah, there's so many layers, and that's sort of fed Women in Food and Drink has grown out of that. So many things have sort of fed from that, because it's not, you know, there's food, history, science, fashion, technology, memories, agriculture, aquaculture. There's wine, there's distilling, there's, you know, there's the growers, there's the product designers, there's the PR people, there's the marketing people, the advertising. All of those layers tell the food and drink story.
I'd never actually thought about it.
It's massive, yes. You know. Yeah. So that's what excites me, because I don't think anybody really has really nailed that and embraced that.
No, and I absolutely agree. And you know, people love stories, and I've been a fan of Cuisine Magazine for years and years. I know what a great storyteller you are. How do you form that relationship and that trust and get that sort of deeper dive to all the people that you meet who are producing, creating, making, all in the industry? How do you make that come alive? How do you dig deep? How do you get the stories out of them?
Oh, you know, that's not hard. That's so not hard, because everyone's got a great story. They may only have one. You know, like if they've got, you know, but like, you know, because they may be so defined by what they do that you know, that's it kind of thing, you know, although no story is ever finished, you know. So,
it's very true.
You know, its stories evolve. But in that particular moment when you're talking to people, you know, everyone's got a story. I think the skill and the trick is to, first of all, have them comfortable enough to be able to tell it.
Yes.
There's a big problem with the culture here for a start, because as I dove into that first New Zealand issue way back and I started working my way around the country and talking to people, one of the things that so many people said to me, and it drove me insane, was, you know, oh, yeah, we're really good, but, you know, yeah, we know we're really good, but, you know, we don't want, like, you know, we don't want to talk, like, we can't, you know, we don't want to tell people about it. Like, that's your story. And I'd be sitting there going, how do you expect me to tell your story if you can't tell it to me? You know, how, you know, if you can't believe in yourself enough to, and that whole thing of, not wanting to be above and think, think that you're all that and all that sort of thing.
The tall poppy,
and
get shot down.
That whole, and it's a lovely, lovely part of the culture, but it's also like, I haven't got time for that.
No.
Like if you want me to tell your story, you've got to be able to tell me your story. Tell me what are the things. But from the storytelling side, I always go, and radio was a great way to learn this, live radio.
Yes.
Because you've not got the luxury of editing. You've not got the luxury of being able to sit down like we are now and have a very long conversation.
Yes.
You've got 8 minutes and you've got to capture that story in 8 minutes because there's ads on either side and then you're on to the next one. So I always go into anything with a beginning, a middle and an end, but then with the knowledge that I'll have the courage to stray from that if the talent decides to take me somewhere interesting. But in case, I'll have a start, a middle and an end so that if they're not going where I need them to go,
you can take them, and there's a real skill in that, isn't there?
I think it's just being a control freak, but,
Well, okay, that too. It is interesting, that point, though, that you made about, a lot of New Zealanders are quite humble in terms of they want to hide away.
And it's a beautiful part of the culture.
Yes, it is, but we also don't do ourselves favours. And interestingly, even I find myself getting caught up in that, and something that happened a couple of weeks ago, someone said to me, why aren't you shouting that from the rooftops? I went and won that award in London, and there's people who are going, why didn't you get on TV? Why didn't you put it out there? And I was like, it's like, and so you come across that all the time.
Yes.
And weirdly enough, in the work that I do in the corporate scene,
yeah.
I see that all the time of people kind of playing under a ceiling and playing small for fear of being out there and shouting from the rooftops to say, look at me, look at me.
That's part of Women in Food and Drink, which is a networking thing that I've started just a couple of years ago, and we're building that at the moment. But we had a little networking session in Auckland last night, and one of the women came up to me and apologised to me profusely at the end and said, I'm so sorry, I need to apologise to you because we call for nominations every year for our top 50 women. And so we put the nominations out there, and the women have to be nominated. It's not me sitting around with my mates going, this year we'll have this one, this one, this one, and this one because I like her. No, you've got to be nominated and all of that sort of thing, and you've got to be nominated by your peers. So this woman was apologising to me last night, saying, I'm sorry, I nominated myself, and then after I'd pushed send, I hated myself, and then I wanted, and I was like, oh my God, and I'm so grateful to you for nominating yourself, because it's great if you're in the position that I am, where you're the editor of a magazine and in your specific world, where everybody loves food and all that sort of thing, you're well known. That's one thing, people know what you do, but that there are so many women, so many people working within all of those layers of the food and drink story or whatever industry they are in, that they're not recognised because nobody really knows what they do, and they haven't had the opportunity to have a platform to speak out. So if you're not willing, again, so I was saying to her, it's fantastic that you nominated yourself because no one else is going to.
No. So
what are you going to do? Sit around and wait for someone to tap you on the shoulder? No.
Make your own world happen, as we talked about. Step
so
forward and make it happen. And also ask someone to nominate you.
Yes.
It's not...
And you nominate someone else.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what that networking is all about. God, it's been just mind-blowing. It's been an amazing experience.
I want to talk about that more, because I think what you've created is something quite unique, bringing women together, recognising women at all those different layers that you talked about in the food and drink industry. What's it like when everybody gets together in that environment, all these women who are so talented, some of them seen more than others? It's just magical. Like? It's just magical, and we have a lot of plans. So it grew from wanting to find more women in the industry. I was getting really annoyed with every time I anyone took a photo of me, it was with a male chef. And then I'd have all these women going, the boys club again, the boys club. And I'd be like, well, the fact of the matter is that, there's
there's 90% more, probably 95% more men in the industry than women, and then there's so many stories that come with that, Sue. Because maybe we could do a couple of episodes because
part 1, part 2, part 3.
Because there are so many reasons. Women get in. I've seen it happen so many times over and over again. So talented, but then they fall in love and they have a family and they can't work in restaurants where they've got to be there on a Friday night, and a Saturday night until 2:00 in the morning. A lot of the times they're also falling in love with another chef or someone that works in the industry, because rarely can you work in that hospo environment. You're very lucky, woman, if you can work in the hospo environment and not have a partner that's also working in it, but then you're also in it together, so you drive one another nuts, and it's it's a really hard environment for a woman. So they can start off very strong, then they leave the industry, to raise their families, and then it's very hard for them to get back in. You usually find them either doing their own cafes and things like that, because they can leave
because
by
it's
3
a
o'clock in the
daytime
afternoon, and they can, and all of that
so
sort of
stuff. So it suits a lifestyle, which is a common theme in the corporate world that I work in as well. However, that's so much easier to manage because it's a daytime job.
Yeah.
So you can get your nannies in, but if you're working night after night,
it's a big ask.
And interestingly, I have coached some chefs in New Zealand who will remain nameless. And I get that world because they struggle with how to keep a normal family life, how to keep it all together. And of course, when you're working nights, late, it's exhausting. And then there's the wind down at the end, and then you want to be the family person.
Eating at the wrong time of night, and the having a drink to wind down and all of that sort of thing as well at 2:00 in the morning when your wife is already and the kids are already asleep. And it's a really hard.
It is
very
hard, and I've seen
and
spoken to a lot of people in the food and drink industry, and the mental side of it is really hard.
But getting better. The whole industry is being much more open and having many more conversations about that. So I'm hopeful that there's been quite a bit of improvement in that area. It's not okay now for people to be treated the way that they are in kitchens and all of that sort of thing. So that
it's like the old Gordon Ramsay days of pots and pans flying. I
effing
and blinding.
Shoot myself in the foot here, because it's like absolutely that sort of abuse and that sort of disregard for the people that work for you and for your team is absolutely not okay. Actually, Gordon Ramsay was a real sweetheart.
So I've heard.
Like that persona. That persona. That persona is that persona. But in actual fact, there's a. But there will be people that work with him in his kitchen that will tell you a different story as well. Yeah. However, again, at that level, when a chef is at that level, you have to respect that they do want a certain amount of discipline, and they have a lot of drive, and the buck stops with them. And so you've also got to be prepared to really put in the hard yards. It doesn't mean that you've got to be prepared to be abused, but you've also, buck does stop with them.
Yourself,
so
don't you? And there's a hierarchy.
You've got to be
kitchen.
You've got to be quite tough, and you've got to be able to, because they haven't got time to muck around.
No. I'm going to digress slightly. What famous chefs have you met from around the world?
Oh, quite a few.
Yeah, come on, share. Who have you met?
Gosh.
Just a few.
Oh, gosh.
So you met Gordon Ramsay?
Jamie
Oliver?
No, I haven't met Jamie. I haven't met Jamie. I've met Nigella. met Daniel Alvarez, yes. Thomas Keller, who was a massive chef in the US with Per Se, and the French.
Oh, I know.
French Kitchen. Oh my God, I can't remember Thomas Keller's first restaurant.
Put you on the spot.
I'll think of it by the end. But yeah, he was my first interview, which was hilarious. My first food interview for my. So that was quite an interesting experience. Lovely man. Yeah. But yeah, no, lots. Heston Blumenthal. It's one of my proudest moments. I took Heston for lunch when he was here in Auckland. And
where did you take him?
They were launching his barbecue range, and they wanted. I was invited to the launch, and they wanted Cuisine to represent it at the launch. And I said, I'll go, but only if you'll let me take him to lunch, because I know that he's not going to see any New Zealand chefs or anything while he's here. He's just going to be doing the launch and he's going to be gone. So if you'll let me take him to lunch and interview him, then I'll, we'll do the other part of it. And I never thought they'd say yes, and they did. And then they said, you've got 30 minutes with him and that's it. 30 minutes max.
Lunch.
Yeah, and because he's got other stuff and he's going and all that sort of thing. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll take it, because the thrill for that. So there was a young chef had just gone into the Sugar Club.
Yes.
At Sky City that I had been watching, and I was really Josh Barlow, and he was very talented and doing really, really well. And so I wanted Heston to have a look at what he was doing. So, and it needed to be, in Auckland. There was so many places that I could have taken him, but unfortunately it needed to be Auckland. It needed to be able to be done in 30 minutes, and there was all of those things that played into it. So anyway, we took him for lunch at the Sugar Club, and that beautiful view of Auckland and all that sort of thing. And we got in there. Well, we started at 12:30 and we were still there at 3:45. And it was the longest, the interview had stopped by about 3 o'clock. Well, it was just the two of us. Yes. His wife was with him. Yes. In the end, I got the chef and his wife to sit down as well, and we ended up the interview just went. Then I lost total control of the interview, and it took me weeks to edit it because it was it went on and on and on. And I asked him a question at the beginning, and he then took off on all these tangents. It's the most difficult interview I've ever done because he was just all over the place because he's such a mad genius. And he'd just at that stage been diagnosed with ADHD.
Oh, yes. Oh,
okay. So he was talking about it for the first time, and I was like,
let me grab this.
And he was, but I asked him this question at the beginning, and he answered it right at the end, and it gave me the perfect. Because I was thinking, when is this going to end? It's just going on and on and on forever. I just don't know. I've lost total control of my beginning, middle, and end now. And then he went back to the question that I'd totally forgotten about that I asked at the beginning that he hadn't answered,
and you went,
answered it, and I went, I think we've gone full circle, and he was like,
brilliant.
we have.
And brilliant. I love it. I love it. What a great story. Tell me, out of all the stories, and you'll have so many, are there a couple of stories you can share with us that were really memorable in New Zealand and the work that you've done, the interviews that you've done, people that you've met? A couple of stories that you can share with us that you just go, this was really great. Even things that you see that we don't see.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. There's just so many stories. It's really hard. It's like, you're picking a child, There's so many stories. I mean, there's been a lot of sadness underneath in a lot of stories because of the hospitality industry and where it is,
right,
and
now.
I wear that very heavily. I also, because of our position with, we have the hats and do the Cuisine Good Food Guide every year. So we award hats, which are New Zealand's equivalent to the Michelin stars, and I take that very responsibly. And so that weighs very heavily on me as well, because I know that it's not me making those decisions, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with me, and I've got to be able to stand there and tell someone why they have or haven't got what they did think they'd get or what they didn't get, and all of that sort of thing. Because it puts bums on seats in their restaurants, and it affects their livelihoods, and I take it really responsibly. So there's been a lot of stuff behind that I don't get to talk about a lot, but I think the things that really inspire are things like when I first came and met with Julio Sturla, who is behind the Eat New Zealand movement.
Oh, yes.
And Julio, they'd started Eat New Zealand, and they'd started off with a big bang, and it was all happening, and then it had kind of gone a bit quiet. And so we got together with a group of other, really well-known, very passionate food and drink people in the industry to sort of see what we could do to try and get it back on course. And Angela Clifford, who's now the CEO, was at that meeting, and that was that very, it wasn't the first meeting for Eat New Zealand, but it was a sort of meeting of minds to be able to sort of bring it back and help it to grow again in the way that it needed to. And those are the sort of things that that really remain with me. The not power, but the ability to be able to really drive things and change things.
Yes,
yeah. I think that's one of the strengths. But God's stories, no, we'd be here all day.
Okay,
so.
all right.
I'll keep thinking.
No, I can imagine because every even small producer to properties
Everyone's
that you
got a
go
story,
on
such a
to,
great story.
and the funny thing is, for all the listeners, you have to follow Kelli on Instagram because there's so many. I see your images of where you are and you're in this new bar and you're eating this fabulous food. And it's like a constant treat of, where are you now? Oh, you're staying in some amazing lodge somewhere in New Zealand. And it's hugely educational just watching your Instagram feed. But you must be just out and about all the time, are you?
It looks a lot more glamorous than it is.
I know, yeah.
It always does. And no one ever had, and I'm really very, very privileged to be, in the situation that I'm in, that I get to go to all of these amazing places. And, I never take, not on any day do I take it for granted. But I will say that no one ever has any sympathy for me. And, Martin Bosley is a Wellington chef, very well known, has had amazing restaurants and now has Yellow Brick Road, which is a premium sustainable seafood company in New Zealand. I don't think anybody does it better than he does, and he's become a good friend. And I will text Martin at 3:00 in the morning when I'm lying on my hotel bed with acid reflux, sitting on 8 pillows, having had 8 meals that day, because when you go and you travel, you got to put your big girl pants on and your stretchy pants, and you're there to eat, and you're there. Everybody wants to get their money's worth out of you, So if the Tourism Association has brought you into town, you're having breakfast with the hotel manager at 7:15, followed by the best croissant in town, followed by the best coffee, followed by a morning tea with the Christian Women's Association or something like that, and then you have a couple of lunches, usually an early lunch and a later lunch. Then you'll do a couple of wine tastings if you're in wine country, or a cocktail tasting if you're in, where they've got distillers or whatever. And then they'll drop you back at your beautiful hotel or luxury lodge and say, you've got rest time now, we'll pick you up in 45 minutes for dinner. And then you will, off you'll go, you'll look at that beautiful bathtub and you'll run the bathtub so you can get an Instagram photo of it, but you won't get in it because you've got 15 minutes to get changed and get back down to go out for two dinners, sometimes 3.
Kelli.
When we're
I feel uncomfortable.
Then when you get back to the hotel room at sort of 1:00 or whatever, and you've got acid reflux, and it's not nice. I hope people are not eating while they're listening to this, but I'll text Martin and go, I think tonight's the night. I think this. So just have the speech, because I don't know whether I'm going to wake up from this. I just don't, because he understands, because he's exactly the same when he travels. It's like my sister came to visit me once and came on a trip with me. She'll never do it again.
No.
By the second day, she was ready to go back for a nap by 3:00 in the afternoon, and I was like, God, toughen up.
But that's a huge drive to be able to do that. And you're right. There's always that side that people look at it and go, aren't you so lucky?
I lost 16 kilos during COVID. Because I wasn't being force-fed like a bloody duck,
It's incredible.
Fatty liver's got nothing on me, I tell you, I'm the duck and that's the hard thing as well, because they know that I'm the editor of Cuisine on these trips and things, that it's very hard, because they'll say, "Oh, chef just wants you to try this," and it's like, look, I'm just going to have one course. I'm just going to have one course. Oh, but the team really, we've got a new menu, and we just want you to and it's a bit like, you remember that old Monty Python? Yes. Just one little wafer, just one little wafer, and it's like, oh my God, everyone's got one little wafer, and it's like, look at me, I'm never going to, I've given up, because I can't. Now it's just about trying to remain healthy. I'm never going to be the size that I was, because I eat for a living,
I know, and that's true, and that's probably something that I don't think anyone thinks about in terms of
That's what I mean, no sympathy for that at all, but, and you can't, how do you, COVID as well was really good for me, because I just stopped drinking. But, when you're out, how do you, and I love to drink, so that's the problem, but how do you sit next to a winemaker at a degustation where they're pairing the wines and say, thanks, but no, I can't,
Yes.
and I can't spit it out. That's against my religion. I mean, I just can't do that.
Why waste?
It's just, can't.
Yes. And I that's a great explanation, and I love that, because I can imagine that in its entirety of the chaos that goes on. But that takes a lot of drive from you. How do you keep up with that, and you keep going and you keep going and keep going? Because what I think a lot of people don't realise in the publishing industry is you're already working 6 months in advance for another issue, and it's you finish one, you wrap it up, but you're already on to the one that's 3 issues. It's a constant train. Do you have holidays? Do you get off the train?
I had, I bought the business, the other 50% of the business last year, late last year, and I went into that new phase going, I'm going to be really smart about this.
Yes.
I've got to start really taking care of myself now, because it's just me, and the buck stops here. I haven't got anyone to bounce it off anymore. I've got to take all the hats now, and I'm responsible for all of the people that, all of the contractors and the people that work for me, and with a tiny team, but I'm proud I've expanded the team this year. And so I was like, okay, and I know I have big moments in my yearly calendar. I know that now we have the Women in Food and Drink Awards in March, so the lead up to that, it's quite a big event.
Yes.
And the top 50, the announcement of the top 50, and then the lead up to that event is quite big. We have the Cuisine Good Food Awards, which are massive, and that's a year-round national judging all year long. But then in the 3 months leading up to that as well, there's like a massive amount of all of the Chef of the Year and Restaurant of the Year, all the categories winners and all of that sort of thing. So there's so much argy-bargy going backwards and forwards on all of that. So, and it's massive. And then on top of that, so it's also, everybody just thinks it's about publishing, but now in the world that we live in, you get this to print. You're already, tomorrow I'm going to print with our December-January issue. I'm already commissioning and shooting our February-March issue, which is our Women in Food and Drink issue. So we're at the moment just on the tail end of finishing the top 50 so that we can produce all of that content, which is 50 women and all of their stories and everything that goes with that. But while that's going on, I'm actually planning and starting to reach out to people for the following issue, which is the April-May issue and the June-July issue. So that's all happening in the print world. But then next Monday, once I will get a weekend off, I'm determined, and then we will, then on Monday it's straight into, right, what's the social media plan, what's going on online when, which stories are we going to put, which recipes are going to be drip fed, which, articles are going up, this one's going up next week, this will go up on Thursday, this will go, and all of that starts to come. Then the team has to re-edit a lot of that stuff because it's got to be presented and laid out, and sometimes even written in a different way for digital than it does here, because you might open this up and it says crispy bits, and it makes sense because there's a piece of crispy chicken skin there. But on the digital thing, because you haven't got the massive photo of the crispy chicken, it doesn't make any. So it's massive. It's just never ending.
Never ending.
But luckily, I absolutely love it. So it's okay. But the minute that I'm like bitter and twisted about it, that's it. I'll have to walk away.
I think there's a point where you might say, actually, I'm stepping back, and I think it would be very hard for you to bring someone in to do it, because when it's been your baby for so long, I can't imagine what that would be like to bring someone in and be going, no.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because in one way, it's hard to hear you say your baby for so long, because in one way I feel like I've just started.
Interesting.
I feel like I'm just getting started, because there's so. But I'm also very, very aware of that. I also have realised that I am more valuable to the business doing the bigger picture stuff.
Yes.
And that I don't need to be on every page, and, so I'm expanding the team and sort of giving them more, responsibility and say, and I have a fantastic, my core team is really tight, and they batter me, they bash me around so much, because they keep me really grounded. They just roll their eyes and go, oh God, here she goes again.
Another big
that's
idea.
That's not going to work, for God's sake, because of this. Hey, did you think about it? And oh yeah, all right, okay, that's not realistic, is it? But, it works really well. But I also do know that I have to start thinking about who will be the new me, because I need the younger voice, the younger look on things. Yeah. Don't say it so easily. Don't agree with me.
No, you've still got plenty of it.
Because I also want to be, I want to be having those bigger conversations about global cuisine and what and I think I've talked to you a little bit about that and what that will be, and I can't make all of that happen if I'm just stuck.
No, that's true.
In the
that's
day-to-day,
very true. You've got to keep rising and letting go so that you can be the bigger influencer.
I don't still have the time for so much of that I know I could be driving, because I'm stuck in the bogged down in the day-to-day. Yes. So I've got to somehow move. Yeah, I've got a couple of people in mind actually that I'm starting to, and it's a horrible word, but I'm starting to groom.
Ooh, exciting. Good on you for making that
but it's bloody hard.
Slow transition and getting your head around it, because I think mentally, that's half of the equation of going, this is how it would work, this is my new vision. So how do I feel comfortable about it? I want to come back to what you just said in terms of getting someone who's younger. What do you see changing with trends in New Zealand food? What's happening? What do you see changing? Where do you see it going? Because, from my very simplistic view of wining and dining, we've had the big 3-course meals, we've gone to smaller food, simpler food. Now we're into sharing little tasting bits. Where do you think it will go in New Zealand?
It's interesting. My belief is that the strength for New Zealand, it's our time. It's definitely our time. I mean, so proud of my baby Vaughan from Amersfield, who was our chef of the year for sort of 5 or 6 years running. And I remember when I first came in that year, we gave him New Zealand's most innovative dish. And I started this new category and wanted, to recognise those chefs that were really pushing boundaries and all of that sort of thing. And then he became chef of the year. Then a few years ago, he finally won restaurant of the year, which was just such a huge thing for them, and the restaurant went to 3 hats. And I know that the lists around the world, the 50 best and La List and best chef, I know that they all look to our list to then, to make some of their decisions, and they're like, so we can drive that conversation. So, but at the end of the day, we are giving them that platform, but it's their talent that's getting them there. It's not us that's doing that. They're driving all of that themselves. There's always been this massive, from the day that I did the New Zealand issue, the massive question of what is New Zealand food. And at the time I was gung-ho on, we need a New Zealand dish. We need our...
It's our staple.
Well, I won't mention the pavlova word, but, we need our...
No, let's not.
I can't even say Lamington, can I? But we need our whatever.
Our dish.
We need our dish. We need our pay or our whatever, and what's it going to be? And maybe it's New Zealand mussels. And I've changed over the years. I've realised that that's just ridiculous. We don't actually need a national dish at all. We don't need to pin it all on one thing, because we are so many things, and that's what makes us so special. But I do think the strength for New Zealand is in casual.
Casual dining?
Because in casual, but on every level, because we do, what's so special about the culture here again is the generosity and the casualness. That Kiwi casual is hard to define, but it's something very, very special. And I think the restaurants that can define, for example, Ahi was our restaurant of the year this year, for that very reason, that yes, it's elevated, but it's still casual. And it's still the essence of New Zealand in its manner, in its approach. It's absolutely beautiful, but it's not white linen tablecloths, and there's no pretense, there's no airs and graces. And I think that's the strength for us, and the way that we'll rise to the top and catch the attention.
I think there's a great description actually, and I love that, the casual dining, but with different levels of finesse and quality around it. But it is always that.
So, even at that very fine dining. I don't think anybody knows what fine dining is anymore. You know,
Are there any fine dining restaurants left?
Oh God, yes.
Are there?
Yeah, there'll always be that space for people that want to be in a very specialised elite environment.
Yes.
You know, and you know, there's room for all of them, and there always will be. But they're redefining themselves, and what I'm seeing is quite interesting since COVID. People that were really into fine dining have changed. The degustations are not so popular anymore. I mean, in certain places they are, because people have had a return to comfort, and people don't want to be challenged. People don't want to be challenged regularly about what they eat and have to think too hard about it, and they want to eat something that they know, and then food memories play into that, and so the whole world has sort of gone full circle and had a return to comfort.
That is so fascinating, and I
told you there's so many layers.
I know there are so many layers.
Yeah.
But what I love about that is, I see COVID, and even though we're years on from it, it's psychologically probably has been the biggest event that has changed people on all sorts of different levels.
In so many ways.
I've never thought about it flowing into the food. I see it in workplaces and, the work
mental
from
health
home, mental health and all of those sorts of things. And
career aspirations.
Everything has changed. But I never thought about it from the food and dining, and that's so true. People are so much more driven about the comfort side.
They just want to return to that. And I mean that, COVID again was a perfect example of the hospitality industry. The strength of the hospitality industry is their flexibility and being able to morph and to change depending on what people want. But COVID saw an industry that never takes time off. Suddenly a chef had to go home and be with his family. And it was really interesting because that suddenly a chef that's defined by what he or she does is suddenly told you can't come to work, you have to, there is no work, you don't have to go to the market anymore, you don't have to worry about the menu, you don't have to worry about the suppliers, you don't, like we all did in our businesses. But for chefs it was like weekends at home, having Sunday lunch, and for some of them, they never came back to the industry because they loved it so much they didn't want to give it up.
Okay.
And for others, it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now?
Save me. Quite
a lot of change. It affected everybody in such a.
And unfortunately for the food and drink industry, we're still seeing obviously the flow-on effect of that because, we're seeing a lot of, and the economy flow-on effect, that we see a lot of them closing down. I've heard some heartbreaking stories and, that's the really tough side of business. None of us go into business to see it turn on its head and lose everything we have. And
there's in this restaurant issue later on, so there's my editor's letter, I gave the space up for a letter from a restaurateur that had closed. And it's just rendering, but I thought, we are doing this issue very hard again. Yes, here we are celebrating, and I was almost with the awards last year. This year, I was like, should we even do them? With restaurants closing down and all of that sort of thing.
Running,
is it the wrong thing to do? But then I spoke to people around the country that I trusted that had closed restaurants and that were still in restaurants and went on to close restaurants. I spoke to them all, and they were like, no, because this occasion and this event gives us the one time of the year when we can celebrate what we do. And we had restaurateurs at that awards event that had lost their restaurants, but they were still in the room celebrating with their peers, and it's that bringing that joy to it. So it was hard. So
and I think we all need a bit more celebration these days. Actually, just before I ask you a couple of other things, the Good Food Awards. always controversial from a public point of view.
Oh, God, yes.
I always love it. You sort of know, you see all the commentary start surfacing when it comes out of, I can't believe this and I can't believe that, and someone's upset and someone's... Do you feel that whole responsibility by doing these awards and showcasing, or do you just block that out now? Because you're never going to get away from it, let's face it.
I feel every absolute millimetre of it. I do. And I'm not, I need to be much more thick-skinned. Yeah. I'm very lucky because I have the beautiful women of PR behind me, and they help me through the awards, and they are just like, I actually really didn't understand how important a job they have. You know, I always looked at PR as a, you know, that glamorous world where they're doing, you know, watched all those TV shows and all that sort of thing. My God, but they've been the backbone and been such a strength for me. You know, in particular this year, just the day of the awards, the morning of the awards, I got up and I don't know why I thought someone was going to ask me a question and I needed to have an answer for it about in an interview that I was doing that morning. So I Googled something on cuisine and the Wikipedia jumped up.
Oh, no. Was that fatal?
Which I hadn't looked at in years. And someone had been in and rewritten the whole thing and absolutely slammed, was a real dig personally at me.
Oh, that's hard.
And on the day of the event, you know, and I was like, oh, my God, you know, and the PED girls were like, right, deep breaths, it's fine, right, what do we need to do? You know, it was just, so long-winded answer, but no, I feel absolutely it is hard. But people are, you know, what's wonderful about social media is that people are able to now have a conversation. And as a storyteller, I'm very, 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 absolutely, it has to be authentic. You know, I work in a world that is known for dictating.
Yes.
You know, you must drink this wine because I'm an expert and I say so, and you must, you know, go to this restaurant because I know better than you what good food is.
I've tried them all.
I don't believe in any of that. Yes, I believe people have skills and knowledge, but it has to be given in a way that invites. So social media has been very good for that because we can't just sit and be broadcasters anymore.
No.
We have to engage in a conversation. And if you want people to engage in a conversation, then you can't say, sorry, you're not allowed to comment, or I don't agree with that comment, so I'm going to delete it.
Yeah.
So I wear it. It hurts. It's very painful, but it's part of the process and people are entitled to their opinion, and as long as they're not being racist and they're not inspiring hate or violence in any way, I won't take it down. I'll wear it.
Yeah.
But I don't have to like it.
No, I was just about to say, it is a hard thing to get used to, and I think so many people in different industries have had to deal with that and the hardness of people's criticism, opinions. Because when you're doing something that's passionate and that you love what you do, to hear people saying horrible things, trying to pull it down,
it's hard. But I've also learnt in my old age that if someone has a go at you, the best thing to do is put it out there, and then everybody will jump to your defence, you know. So unless people really hate you, you know, so, you know, then people in your industry will go, oh, my God, no, that's ridiculous, and everyone will come to your defence, and then you feel so much better.
Then you go,
because then you're looking at all this nice stuff, you know, which sort of just distracts you from all of the
That's very true.
The horrible
That's very
stuff.
true. Tell me, Kelli, what do you think about your own personal qualities and what drives you, your values, have been key to make this work, to be producing such a quality product with such heart?
So many things. I think authenticity. I mean, I'm like, I wear my heart on my sleeve.
Yeah, I can see that.
So authenticity, but that takes me back to my waking up in a cold sweat this morning, because I was like, essence, what is my essence? Oh my God, like why can I not answer this, you know? And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go in there and I'm going to have to talk to my essence, because when you're talking to a foodie, I'm thinking vanilla essence, citrus essence of saffron, you know. But when you think about that, it actually makes sense, because it's that extraction,
Yeah.
boiling something right down and extracting the absolute quality
That's right.
of, so that's what you're trying to get at. That's driven me into an absolute terror because I can't define it. I just can't. I thought really hard. Like if I was a herb, I would be probably basil.
Why?
Because I need to be frequently hydrated.
Yes.
And because the older I get, the tougher the stalks are. So, I mean, but that's just like, it's, but I kind of, because I aren't able to define that is possibly what also drives me, because I do feel like I'm just beginning, always.
I feel like that too.
I've also got the entire cast of the Muppets in my head at any given moment, making me self-doubt myself and telling me, you go this way, go that way, go, and it's amazing that I can even have a conversation with you. There's so many other people having conversations at the same time. So,
well, I'm glad I've got you here today. I mean, the essence within you, I definitely see that authenticity. You're a brilliant storyteller. There's a passion that you have there for food and wine, and that's been in your life for a long, long time. You have huge heart in terms of everything that you bring to, I mean, look how beautiful these covers are, Every one of them just has heart in them. The stories have heart in them. So I think, what I see is you're a woman who definitely lives from heart, from feeling, from inspiring, from lifting other people up, for showcasing other people. You're almost like a conduit for an industry of showcasing people who need to be seen, who are doing incredible things. And as you say, we all eat, we all have memories from food gatherings.
It's interesting because we do, but people don't think about also within those layers, everybody's got to eat, and everybody thinks about, beautiful restaurants, beautiful magazine, amazing recipes, and all of that sort of thing. But we've also done stories on people that at this time of year, especially when we're all making our Christmas feasts and we're doing all of that sort of stuff, it's not just about, things like people that are homeless and don't have that. There are also, you have conversations with people that they didn't grow up with that luxury of food. You go, food memories. Everyone has food memories. Not everybody has good food memories.
No, that's true.
And that's quite humbling when you start to have those sort of conversations, to go, oh my goodness, I never would envision anyone, like, you have to eat, and surely you must love a cheese sandwich or something. There must be something good. But some people, absolutely, their lives have just, food has not had that place, that they've not had that place of nurture. They've not had that place of flavour. They've not had those elements in their life.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
It's
that's
really,
a very good point.
It's big story.
Big story. So, what would you give the 20-year-old Kelli advice?
Oh, my God.
What you see now, what would you be saying to the 20-year-old of Kelli, your younger self?
I would be saying, stop looking at photographs of yourself and being horrified by them. I would be saying, stop looking at, because I just can't believe, and, whenever I talk to other women about this, everyone goes, oh yes. So it obviously resonates with not every woman, but with a lot of women, that I look back at photos of me 10 years ago now and I go, oh, God, you're hot.
I was hot.
Look at that. God, you look good, girl. Look at that. And at that time, I was getting, trying to get out of the photo, trying to get my husband to, just, not wanting photos taken of me because I was so disgusted in the way I looked. And, it's like that to this day. And, now, I had profile photos taken a while ago. They were the best ones I've ever had, but I still wasn't happy with them. I still looked horrible. And now I look at them 5 years later and go, oh, not bad actually. I look quite good there. It's like, for God's sake, it's
So is that letting go? You'd be telling your younger self to
not
let
be
go
so hard on
yourself.
not being so hard on yourself, and not being, not that idea of perfection. I'm never going to be God, who do I think is absolutely beautiful? There's so many beautiful women, but I'm never going to be a supermodel, you know? So,
and I think there's a great message there because
but inside I am.
Absolutely. You know? And you're always hot. We have to believe we're always hot.
Some days more than others, yeah.
But I think, you know, that in itself is something that I hear quite often, is to be able to go back and say to that 20-year-old self, don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself, you know, the opportunity to make mistakes and grow, because everything that comes from that forward creates who you are today. And who you are today is still a beautiful human being. And I always think it's fascinating to think back and go, oh, what advice would I give my 20-year-old self? And that is one that I do hear a lot.
Yeah,
so,
that and I think the other thing is just you know, I am a very highly stressed person, you know, and so I overthink things, and you know, I if I'm going into a business meeting or whatever, I like to sort of go, okay, so if this goes pear-shaped, what's the worst thing that can happen, and so that I'm already designing those conversations. So I've got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I know exactly where I'm going. So I've got some semblance of control.
Yes.
So you know, I've got a control story.
Oh.
Can I give you one quick control
give us
story?
a quick story. Yeah,
quick
control
quick
story.
Divert to the left, not about food. But so I'm a really bad mother. I am.
It's terrible.
I am. I'm a terrible mother. My son would make Christmas decorations at school, and he'd bring them home, and I would hang them on the back of the Christmas tree, because I don't because I am, when it comes to the Christmas tree, I am like, the Christmas tree is mine.
Yes.
You can can't have. I love real Christmas trees, but my husband is allergic to the needles, things.
Yeah,
not
pollen,
really, but just
pollen,
thinks he is. You know, like he just, you know,
it's the mess.
He doesn't like them. So we have an artificial Christmas tree, and so you know, but that's my thing, you know, and I sit there and I do it, and it's perfect, and you know, like, and everyone can't. You know, a couple of years ago, I gave the boys, my husband and my son, I gave them one decoration each that they could put on it.
It was generous of you.
And then they put it on there, and then I had to move them to the back, because I didn't actually want them where anyone could see them. They had to go to the back, you know. But I tell them that it's against the window so that people can see them from the street, so that they can, you know, they can whatever. Anyway, when I had my breakfast radio show years ago with the ABC, I decided that the way that you decorate your Christmas tree says a lot about you, you know, and so I thought there was a good story in that. So I invited a psychoanalyst, therapist type person onto the show. I asked all of my listeners to send in photos of their Christmas trees.
Yes.
And it was about, 2 weeks before Christmas. So I was like, I had to do some Christmas content. So that's what I came up with. And so he came on, and I had all the photos of the things from the listeners and everything. And I slipped mine in there, but he didn't know it was mine, right? And when he picked up my Christmas tree, he said, whoever decorated this tree is an absolute control freak and has severe penis envy.
What a thing to say.
I know.
Could you keep a straight face?
Oh, I had to tell him.
Did he elaborate more?
No, I didn't want him to. I was like, that's more than enough. That's more than enough. I was thinking, oh my goodness, So the Christmas tree, that and then it's still to this day, this year is I'm enlightened, and I move I have actually now agreed to let my son decorate the tree this year. I am not the window. The tree. I've got a smaller one that I'm going to do, but he's got the big tree because he wants to decorate it with his Hot Wheels, right?
Oh, okay.
So we've started already. So last night he's bringing up that he's going to wrap them in. I'm like, no, you are not wrapping the Hot Wheels in the branches of the tree. You are going to put wire on them. Here are the rolls of wire, and you're going to thread wire, and you're going to hang them on the tree. And so I started yesterday, and within minutes I was like, no, you can't. No, not that. No, you don't want them all hanging. What Hot Wheels are they? They're all scratched and dirty. Oh, these are the ones of my childhood. They're my best ones. I'm like, where's all the beautiful new colourful ones? We're not. And my husband came into the middle of it and went, mate, if you want to get this tree done, go and get the new Hot Wheels. It's not going to happen happen with the old rusty, scratched ones and all that. Terrible control freak. So I think that doctor was right.
Yes. And I think, recognising what our qualities are is an important part. And let's face it, that's what made you so successful as well, to be able to have the control to create what you have. So, great story. So, to bring our little chat to a close...
Don't ask me that essence question again.
No. I'm going to ask you. No, I think we know what your essence is. It's shining through. So when the last chapter of your book comes to an end and you move on from this world, what would you like to be known for? What would you like to be remembered for?
I always thought I'd want to be remembered as the Mother Teresa of food. But my husband keeps reminding me that she died very poor, so that's probably not a good goal to have. Remembered, I do love to make people laugh, but I think mostly I would just want people to be ever hungry for more, to understand the layers and to the fact that there is so much more to the story than just a recipe and what you're going to put on the table.
Or whatever you put on your plate. There's a whole lot of people,
livelihoods and worlds and, all of that stuff behind it. And I don't think we think enough about that. It's just seen as what am I going to have for dinner?
Commodity that sits on your plate. And I love that. And I think you're doing a wonderful job of educating people with that. And every one of these magazines is just so special, and I love reading them. And so to complete this, I want to give you a little gift, and it sums up what this is about. And this is a quartz heart. Oh. And it's very special, being cleansed and kind of blessed. And I give that to my guests because I think, when we talk about the essence within you, for everyone somewhere it connects to heart. And so if you ever feel lost, if you ever feel that you've lost your way, feeling frustrated, you can always grab that heart, think about this conversation, think about the essence within you, and know that always drives you, and that passion and drive. So you keep that and hold on to it.
I think I'm just going to have to, it's going to get, do they wear out?
No.
I think it'll get worn out very quickly. So it's going to go everywhere with me. Thank you so much.
I have my
That's
own
beautiful.
And I carry it everywhere with me. And sometimes when I'm doubting where I'm going, I grab that because it reminds me, remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing and where you're going.
It's good to hear you say that, though, because people like me look at people like you and think that there would never be any self-doubt,
We all have it. We're all human, that's our commonality. Every single person, everybody has doubts at some times because we're human, and that's what makes us human. And even the most successful people that I work with who are super wealthy have crap going on in their life and they doubt themselves. So it's not unique. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it, and it was so lovely to get to know you a little bit more. So thank you.
You too.
Thanks for tuning in to the show today. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like more of this, then subscribe to my channel or click on the QR codes for more tips, tricks, and strategies on how to lead yourself stronger through life.